Alright all, so as the sun sets here, it is great because the kids can play in the garden again. With this hot sun, we've not been able to enjoy anything because you've got to be locked in the aircon, or it's so hot that you're completely, falling over, and you just can't do anything because of the heat. So it's nice that the kids now can play in the garden, and we've got loads of gardening to do. We've got loads of stuff to catch up on. But in this evening's little rant, I just thought I'd touch on a topic that gets asked a lot on this channel. The top question that I receive is, how dare you use the word expat and not immigrant? And the suggestion is, I do see a rise in racism on YouTube. I have done in the past few years of doing this. Like in the early days, nobody would ever comment that my wife may be Cambodian and not Thai in a derogatory way, and I've never been called a white guy so much and being kind of put in a box. Oh, he's a white guy, so he must think this and do this. I don't watch the news, I don't really follow anything, so I know it's quite it's in the news a lot, this kind of debate and the political element of it, but I don't really watch the news. I'm just kind of here on the farm. What I do see is the spin-off of that, which is, how dare you say the word expat or expatriate? And I'd like to get into why I think why I do not concede the linguistic territory of the use of that word, and why I think that word is completely appropriate under the circumstances of somebody, whatever race, colour or creed, living in Thailand. Why I think they should use the word expat. Now, of course, it's a loaded term because people see that as not wanting to use the word immigrant. Oh my God, he uses expat, he won't use the word immigrant. Is immigrant some kind of low status, or is it a financial thing, or is it to do with race or something like that? I don't want to get into the deep politics and debate of it. But what you have to understand in Thailand is there are some very, very clear things that are stamped in your passport, all right? So it's not we're not anti the word immigrant, but we technically shouldn't use the word immigrant. And why is that? And that's because most people on most visas, whether they be retirement visas, marriage visas, or educational visas, or even business visas, will have the words non-immigrant stamped into their passport, which is the government reminding you that you are not an immigrant and you are not entitled to the rights that maybe an immigrant may have. When I think of an immigrant, and there's different debate on this and definition and whatnot, and of course there'll be some polarity within the comment section of this. I'm just giving it from my point of view. But when I think of immigrant, it's somebody that's gone to live and work in another country with the possibility of becoming a full-time citizen of that country, and in their passports have very rarely stamped the words non-immigrant. The definition is just not made in a lot of countries, and so you have to understand, living in Thailand, you're not granted those same privileges and rights. Doesn't matter if you have children, doesn't matter if you have a wife, doesn't matter if you've been here for 30 odd years and you have a family and you speak the language and you've integrated. Well, no, it doesn't matter. You're still going to have the words non-immigrant stamped in your passport. So, and that isn't always the case in many other countries. I'm not saying it's easier to immigrate to another country. It's very difficult to immigrate to the USA or the UK. This is purely to explain to people, why do we use the word expat and not immigrant in this case. Now, if I had been granted status here to work freely and do any job that I want, as usually an immigrant can come to the UK, for example, and drive a taxi or do any of those kind of jobs. They're free to work whatever profession they have to provide for the family. If that was the case here in Thailand, then maybe I would go with the word immigrant. And of course, if they didn't stamp non-immigrant in my passport, I would have no qualms with the word immigrant. I would love to be an immigrant in this country, a true immigrant, and to enjoy all the rights that afforded. That would be a wonderful thing, but unfortunately the Thai government will always remind you that you're a non-immigrant. And so many of us then use the word expat, and that can now be seen as a kind of, I don't know, like a British colonial word, expatriate. But language is dependent on how you use it. Do you use it as a form of superiority? Do you use it as some kind of status above immigrant? I mean, I've always used it simply because the Thai government make it so clear that I'm not an immigrant in this country. So I use the word expat, which I think is the closest term, the closest equivalent term to somebody that's living outside of the country. Some may say in debate that the idea of expat means you will eventually go back one day, and certainly that's what the Thai government want to remind you. I hope this clears things up on the use of the word expat and immigrant. Before commenting stuff like this, like a lot of the racist stuff that I hear in the comments, you should really take some time to figure out why somebody uses a certain word or why they do the things that they do. Instead of just attributing it to one's racial profile, which is racism. That is racism, judging somebody from their racial profile and saying, well, they do this because of this, or they are that kind of person. That's racism. That is accusing somebody of something that you're actually committing. You know what I mean? You're saying that person's a racist, but you're the one actually being racist. When you find out and you dig a little bit deeper about why do we use that word, expat and not immigrant, then you may find that there is good reason. Again, I'd love to be an immigrant into this country, and of course there are ways you can get residency permits. You can become a citizen, but it's usually very linked to financial reasons. So basically, if you're very rich, you can do it it's easier for you, let's say that. But the time for me to do that has really been and gone, because when I used to have a corporate job here in Thailand, then I had a lot of documentation with the companies I worked with and things like that. All of that has kind of gone since I left my occupation, and I moved to Bali and I worked in Bali for a while. So a lot of that time has been and gone to become a citizen. Of course, I do qualify in other ways in that I speak Thai. You recite the national anthem. You have lived here for a certain number of time. Maybe you have a wife and children. These are all circumstances that they take into account. But there is certainly a financial circumstance that they take into account, which right now I probably wouldn't qualify for. Perhaps in the future, maybe I will. But and as is the case with anybody that moves to any country, I'm not saying woe is me, it's terrible, it's so hard to immigrate into Thailand, like we should be able to come here and be immigrants. I'm not saying that's the case, because it's hard to go to the USA too, it's hard to go to the UK too. I'm just giving the reasoning for why that word expat is so commonly used when referring to people that live in Thailand that come from another country. So and I think that language, it's how it's used is important. How is language used? Like the word farang, for instance. I've got a vlog coming up on this word farang. Many Thais will call Westerners farang, and they don't mean anything negative by it and whatnot, but that word could be used in two ways. It could be, he's farang, good friend of mine, or he's farang, Kinok. That means like a farang bird shit. So it can be used in a derogatory way. I've never heard it used in a derogatory way in Thailand. But the point is, language, the word expat, can be used in a way of, well, I'm an expat. That makes me superior to an immigrant. That's bullshit. It can be used in a way that is, I'm an expat because the Thai government say I ain't an immigrant, even though I want to be. So the use of language, how we direct it, how we choose to use it, I think that's important, and you have to take that into consideration, especially those that jump to conclusions and like to point the finger and judge and accuse people of something by the language that they use. I think that you have to take all of this into consideration. How is the word being used? And that's why I have no qualms, and I will have no qualms in using that word in the vlogs and in the channel. Now, people have different opinions on this, I'm sure, and you're welcome to voice your opinion in the comment section. That's what I have this channel for. It's a bit of a I've always said this channel is a mixed bag, so I know some people in the comments are really happy with this new style of content, different interviews with expats, sharing thoughts and ideas from an expat living in Thailand. I know many people are really happy with it and excited, but I have received some complaints like, oh my god, what's this, and oh, this is terrible, and oh, we don't want to see this. This channel is built as a side channel to Life in Bamboo to allow me to experiment, to put up different content that I usually would not put on Life in Bamboo, to put on interviews. It's a dumping ground for all kinds of different content, so I ask you to bear with me with it. I'm trying new things and seeing what the feedback is from them. And again, you're welcome to have your comment below. If you think that the word expat should be banned from YouTube, tell me why. You know, I'm very open-minded to this. Like, I have no skin in the game, as it were. You know, I'm not holding on to the word expat like this has got to stay forever. If you have a good argument why you think expat should be removed from the English dictionary and not used, then I'm happy to hear it in the comments section. And then if you also concur with me, or you have any reasons why the word expat is completely appropriate, please do leave a comment. You know, I'm not making this content to be divisive in any way. We've got some cows. I'm not making the content to be divisive in any way. I have received some comments regarding Damo's race as well, like be it Cambodian, Thai, what does it even matter? You know, it's like at some point in your mental and spiritual evolution, you really go above all of this. Like, you just don't see race anymore. You just don't see, oh, is my wife Thai, is she Cambodian? Beyond it, it's like love, humanity. We're all human. Like, that's what I identify with as human, you know. And that's what I put my wife in that. She's another human, you know. On a deeper level than that, she's more than human. She's divine. She's God. But you eventually get to a point where you don't look at people and instantly think race or creed or religion or all of this separation. And there are some aspects of that I will cover when I've got my thoughts clear on it. Because obviously her mother speaks Khmer. You know, I love Cambodians. I love Cambodia. But you do hear some stuff. You hear some stuff which is quite divisive and somewhat negative about my wife's race and origin, and she's human. We're all human, you know. I feel like sometimes you got to get a grip. I'm not in the mainstream conversation. Like I said, I don't watch the news and stuff, and I don't know how polarizing what I'm saying here may be. But regardless, it's like, don't we all have to operate from the point of mutual understanding that first and foremost, we're all human, modern humans, you know, coexisting. You know, take care of each other, love each other, and that's the point. That's the point where I come from. But I will not stop using expat, as I've been told to do. And that's that. That's my opinion on it. So, like I said, I don't know how polarizing it'll be. May not be polarizing at all. Who knows? People are easily offended in this day and age. But you got to risk offending people, don't you, if you're going to have an opinion on something. And opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one and they all stink. And this is just my opinion. I'm ready to receive other facts, insights and perspectives in the comments and be denounced or agreed with, either or. Wishing you all well, and hope this is a useful insight into the diary of why we use the word expat.